I'm Jen Evans, and this is Raising Roamers. We are on a mission to inspire families all over the country to pursue their travel dreams even after they start a family and have kids. Today I'm with Lacey with Rolling with the Woods, and we have a lot of animals here today. We have a cat, we have some chickens you might hear later, and things like that. And we are going to talk about everything from parenting to traveling and just everything in between. So Lacey, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to, actually I guess I shouldn't be thanking you for being here. I'm at your house.
But, yes, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for all of this. We met in such a unique way. You know, when you're on social media and you're doing this like really niche thing about traveling and being in a camper and things like that, you want to talk to other people that are doing the same thing. And something that drew me to you initially was that all of these places that you had been are also places that I've been, and I had never seen someone whose travel destinations had aligned so carefully with mine, or like so closely with mine. And so I reached out to you, and you know, a lot of the destinations that I saw you in were out west, and so I'm thinking, you know, maybe when we move to Arizona we'll cross paths and, you know, things like that. And then I asked you where you're from, and you were an hour away from where we are in the Midwest.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it's absolutely
So cool.
crazy. Yeah, it's a small world, and you know, everything happens for a reason for sure. So super excited our paths crossed. But tell me just a little bit about your family dynamic, like how you guys integrate traveling in your family. Like, what does that look like for you?
We are a family of 5. We've got 3 boys, ages 16, 12, and 9. And we homeschool, so we are able to travel when everybody else is in school, and that's one of our favorite things. This year, when our local school started, on the first day, we were on the Pacific Ocean, like camped right on the beach, and my sons were running through the water, doing cartwheels, and it was really fun. We like to camp a lot, so when the weather's nice, we like to be at the campground. As far as homeschooling at the campground, usually I'll have a more relaxed schedule. If the weather's perfect outside, like we will do maybe 3 days a week if we're there for like the entire week. There's other homeschool families that will be at the same campground, and so they make friends. They'll wake up early to hurry up and get their work done so they can take off. And they ride bikes, play basketball, everything, like all day long, and they have so much fun that way at the campground. I do still have them do a little bit of work so that we can kind of stay in a routine, but it is definitely more relaxed. On days that we're at home, we try to do work every day, but they're usually done by noon. They try to be like, that's their goal, is to get up and get their work done and get their chores done by noon, so that they can have the rest of the day to do whatever they want, which is usually playing outside, but they stay busy doing that. We have 2 that play basketball. Right now we're in the middle of basketball season, so that's kind of why we're like at home right now. Between basketball and deer season, we are at home deer hunting and processing deer and playing basketball like 4 nights a week. We like to travel. We've done several cross-country trips with our camper when we are able to get away. We do about 2 weeks to travel cross-country. Our last trip, we went all the way to California. We did 6,000 miles and covered 10 national parks. We love it. We love traveling. We love showing our kids. There's so much more out there than right here in our little town, our county, even our state. There's just so much out there, so much to see.
Absolutely. Like, what do they think about this? Like, when they're out there actually processing all these different places, like, what goes through their minds during all that?
I think all of us really have a hard time processing it, really, until we get home. We go so hard because we try to see as much as we can in a really short amount of time. I know we have usually about 20 days is what we do, but still it's not enough to see and do everything that's out there. We hike a lot, so we will try to do in each park. We try to hit the major hikes, do a few long hikes, which means we're getting up early. We're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes we'll make sure to watch sunrise on the trail, and the boys don't complain too much. We usually reward them, like we're gonna have pizza, we're gonna have ice cream, and everybody gets a soda because we don't normally do sodas on everyday occasion, but after they've hiked 10 miles, we're gonna make sure they have ice cream and sodas.
That's so funny. So how young were they when you started doing this kind of thing with them?
Our youngest was 5 when we started. I think he was around 4 or 5 when we started hiking with him.
So like, as a mom of a 2-year-old, where homeschooling is definitely in our future, we're just not there yet, For other parents that are kind of in that phase where they know that they want homeschooling to be a part of their lives, or maybe their kids just aren't doing great in public schools and they want a different setting for them or things like that, what kind of advice would you give to those parents about how to adapt into a homeschool lifestyle?
I think the biggest thing for me was to completely forget about school and a schedule and trying to be in a routine. And I was guilty of that. Our first year, I overscheduled. I had pictured in my mind of like, we're going to wake up and say the pledge, everybody's going to have breakfast and be dressed and have our chores done, and we're all going to sit down at a certain time. And like, I guess what you would imagine as like a homeschool family with their kids all sitting around, and that's what I had in mind. And then I had everybody's schedule wrote out, like we're going to work until this time, and then we're going to stop and have a snack, and then we're going to have lunch, you know. And that worked for, well, it probably never even worked, but especially with 3 of the boys homeschooling, and nobody was ever on the same schedule. There's a lot of distractions. We have a lot of animals. People stop by and visit, which is great. They always want to help me. Like, whatever I have going on, they want to be right there with me.
That's awesome.
If I have to go run errands, they want to go with me. We've learned to be a lot more relaxed. They know what has to be done every day, and they can do it in whatever order they want to get done. If they want to do math first, or if they want to sleep until 8:30, 9 o'clock, then I feel like they need it because it's not every day. And then they also know if sleep until 9 o'clock, then it's going to take them longer to get their work done, and they'll be running into the afternoon. They get to choose.
Do you notice a difference with like their self-discipline, self-motivation, things like that?
Yes, 100%. My oldest was in middle school, still in public school, and like I had started to notice he would come home and go to his room because he had homework, and then he would be working on homework until supper time sometimes, and then we'd hurry up and eat supper, and then it was hurry up and get everybody to bed, and then start over again the next day. And I felt like I never saw him.
Right.
Same with the other 2. The kids were not together then, and now that they're always home together, I do notice that they get along a lot better.
That's awesome.
Like, that is something I never thought was an issue until I started seeing total opposite. Like, we all sit together as a family every night.
Awesome.
They're still siblings.
Right.
They're not perfect. Lots of arguments. But they have to work it out together. Because I think before, when they were in public school, they could have a fight and then they would go their separate ways. Now that's the biggest part of their life is their siblings. Like, they have to work to make those relationships work.
That's amazing.
And that's, like I said, that's one of those things I never expected to happen. I didn't even realize it was an issue at the time.
And it's really interesting to like think about school from a perspective of like, you know, being an adult, you go to work for 8 hours, you come home, you're exhausted, you just want to eat and go to sleep and things like that. And the fact that we put kind of like that same mindset on kids from the very beginning of when they're 5 years old, like, it's no wonder they come home and, you know, have these different personalities and things like that because, like, they are experiencing the same stress that we do as adults. It's just on a different scale.
Exactly. They have to go to school and sit in a chair. They can't talk to the people around them, only at recess. And, you know, they just don't get to be kids. Right. And it's from first thing in the morning. It's hurry up, let's go. We can hurry. And then they come home, and I think they have to have that time to decompress once they get home because they've worked all day of, like, trying to socialize with these friends and try to figure out how to fit in and try to figure out how to please all their teachers and get all of their work done. And then they come home and they just don't want anything to do with anybody else for a while. And I mean, adults are the same way. It's just like, okay, leave me alone for a little bit. I need my space. So then by the time they did all of that, they didn't have time for a family. And so that's what is so important to us is being together as a family.
Absolutely. That's amazing that you guys have been able to like find your path and find what works for you guys. And I hope that that serves as like an inspiration for other families where like if you notice something wrong in your life and you want to fix it, there's so many different ways to fix it. And you know, our personal journey is kind of like redefining our American dream because we got it. I mean, we achieved it. We had, you know, my husband had the job, we had the house, things like that, and it just wasn't satisfying to us. And so the fact that we're totally tearing all this down and starting over, I mean, everybody should realize that if your American dream doesn't look like everybody else's, that it's totally okay as long as you're happy and you feel satisfied with your day-to-day life. There's nothing more important than that.
Absolutely.
So, traveling in a camper with 3 boys, that must be interesting. What does that look like? How do they get along in such a confined space? What does that kind of day-to-day life look like when you're on the road?
Most of the time, they're really good.
Awesome.
We take lots of snacks, and I also like for them to journal because I like to see things from their perspective.
Absolutely.
Like, they'll pick like the most random thing to write down that they remember or that happened, and so I like to go back and see things from their point of view of what we've done. They also like to read a lot. They always take their books, and that keeps them busy. I mean, they're really good traveling. We try not to stop that much. So when we do stop and get fuel, then we'll run in the camper and make sandwiches or whatever we can make on the go, which is the cool thing about traveling with the camper. We have all of our food in the camper. Everything is right there. And so we try not to go into the gas station. Like we can use the bathroom in our camper, and so that prevents us from having to go inside.
Awesome.
And then we try to do everything just in one stop, and they know, like, we're not going to stop every 10 minutes. You should have done that at the last stop. And I mean, they've gotten so used to it now as far as like on our travel days. They know like it's going to be a long, hard day, but we're going to push through it and we're going to get to somewhere really cool.
Awesome.
As far as like our packing up, and they are all very helpful now. My oldest son can help my husband back in or set up the leveling blocks. The little boys will run in and start putting out slides whenever the camper's level. Like we all just have a routine and we jump in. They know what needs to be done, and it pretty well goes smoothly.
That's amazing. So I know you guys talk about this whole like part-time camper living. So can you explain a little bit more? Because like I mean, we're sitting on the porch of your house right now, you know. So like it's definitely like, you know, we just totally dove in and just sold everything to go into this camper. And then where not everybody that wants that camper lifestyle has to do that. So what does it look like to kind of do this part-time thing where you still have your house, but you have a house on wheels ready to go also?
It's a lot to take care of. I feel like I have 2 homes basically because I keep the camper loaded with all of our essentials, and then that way when we do decide to go, I can just throw in food, whatever last minute things, so I don't have a whole lot of packing or unpacking to do. So it is more to take care of, more to clean, more to keep packed.
How often are you guys able to take the camper and just leave from your primary home?
With my husband working, we do not get to go as often as we want as far as trips and him taking off of work. Since we've been homeschooling, we've done a lot of like local camping trips, which is what we normally just do, where my husband can come up at night, but me and the boys stay during the day. And we're able to camp and ride bikes and do everything outside while we're there camping and do our school. And then we've also hosted. We hosted for a month this past summer, which was our first hosting job.
Awesome.
We loved it. We loved the experience. My husband was able to come up at night and on the weekend, so he wasn't able to stay there with us all the time, but we made it work. So we like to camp on the weekends. Throughout the week, we've got to where now that we can camp for longer than a weekend, because to us, a weekend just never was long enough. Which, I mean, I don't feel like as long as we're anywhere, it's going to be long enough.
Right.
So we would go on the weekends, and then it just flies by. Like we're having so much fun, and there's so much stuff that we want to do at each campground that it's like all of a sudden Sunday and it's time to go home. Once we started homeschooling, we decided like, let's stay longer because we can, you know, and we don't have to be anywhere on Monday morning. We don't have to go home on Sunday nights. So we started staying longer, which is so fun to be at the campgrounds during the week.
I bet.
I mean, the weekends are fun too, but during the week it's just so much quieter.
Oh, I bet.
And so we really enjoyed camping through the week. We take long weekends and go as much as we can doing other things, and then take our long trips when we can too, whenever my husband can get off work.
Awesome. So you just got back from a really long trip, didn't you?
Yes.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about that. How did that go?
So we covered 6,000 miles. And we went all the way to California, through Utah, Arizona, Nevada. We went to 10 national parks. I think that's our longest, farthest trip that we've taken so far. We were gone for about 20 days.
That's amazing.
And it was amazing.
After those 20 days are over, are you guys like, okay, we're ready to be home? Or are you guys like itching for more? That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I could just keep going, and
Yeah.
I think we're all that way. Like we see we're exhausted. So if we could, like I said earlier, like we go so hard. We hike long trails. We try to see everything and do as much as we can at each stop, and we don't take a break because we don't have time to take a break in between parks. Like we literally will get to our next campground, set up the camper, and we're in the park within an hour, and then we'll stay until after dark sometimes.
That's awesome.
We were coming off of a trail at Yosemite like 2 hours after dark. One night this summer because that was the time we had, and we wanted to do this big trail, and we started coming back, and we didn't make it back before sunset, so we were just hiking in the dark, which was a little bit scary, but it was still a neat experience. And I mean, that's something that the boys will talk about still, like
absolutely,
hiking back down from that trail in the dark at a park we had just got to. We weren't even familiar with it.
That's so funny.
It's just things like that. So, I mean, if we could schedule in a day to just sit around and rest and not wake up early, that would be much better. Because by the time we get home, we're exhausted.
Oh, I bet.
We'll look back through our pictures, and it's like, that's when we process everything. And even still, I'll make a video for Facebook or TikTok, and I'll show it to the boys, and they're like, wow, I can't believe we did that. And it's like, everything's just a blur when it happens. Yeah. But then later, they're like, we really did see that. I remember that.
And they have to be so proud of themselves for those things, too. Like, most kids their age are not climbing mountains and stuff like that. So, like, that just has to be such a good feeling of, like, empowerment for them.
It is. And when we first started hiking with the boys, we followed the rule of, like, and you've probably heard it, like a mile for every age. So, like, if they're 2, they can hike 2 miles without being carried. Yes. So that's kind of what we went by at first. We started out with, 3 or 4 mile hikes, and then once we seen that they could do that easily, then we started pushing it a little further. And the farthest, or the longest trail, I guess, that the boys have ever done with this is 15 miles. Wow. And it was at Glacier, which was kind of by accident. We hiked to Grinnell Glacier.
I've done that.
Have you?
Yes,
okay.
Exact hike.
So we booked the boat ride for the way back because we thought, I wanted to see the whole trail on the way in, but we thought we would shorten it a little bit and take the boat ride on the way back. And on the way back, we got to the boat dock just in time to see the boat taken off. Oh no! And so, which was fine. We knew we weren't going to make it, but we asked the boys, we're like, do you guys want to sit here for another hour and wait for the boat, or do you just want to go ahead and hike back? And they're like, let's go.
Awesome.
So we got back and then went and sat in the hot tub at the campground and talked about, like, how awesome that was for them to do such a long hike.
Absolutely. And if I recall, at least after the boat on the way back is the flat part.
Yes, that wasn't the hard part. No, and that one's not a super steep trail, but still for them to say, hey, we've hiked 15 miles. Yeah. So we've done several longer trails like that now because we know that they can. Yes. They know that they can. Because we meet people on the trail with the kids, and they're like, how are you guys doing this? I can't believe you guys are hiking on trails like this, or are asking us, like, when we don't know if our kids are ready for this yet. And I'm like, they're tougher than we are. They recover so much faster. They don't get sore like we do. Like, they can handle it. They might need more breaks. They need more encouragement and motivation and lots of snacks, but they can do it.
So I remember I had this weird realization, 2016, 2017, I went out to Israel for 10 days, and it was like a group trip with a bunch of people that I didn't know. And the tour guide there, he lives in Israel, but he was from like Pittsburgh, I think, or something. And I remember going on this crazy hike while we were out there, and his family came and joined us that day. And there's just this little 4-year-old, like, we're all huffing and puffing, and this 4-year-old was just running his way up the trail. And we were talking to the tour guide about it, and I hadn't even met my husband yet. Kids weren't ever in the picture at that point, things like that. But it was so interesting talking to him about parenting, because he's like, out here in Israel, he's like, everybody has to join the military when they turn 18. So, like, you can't raise your kids in any other way except for being tough. Wow. So he's like, we were hiking from the very beginning because, like, this kid has to learn how to be tough so he can, stand his own ground and things like that whenever he's 18 and joins the military. And it was such an interesting perspective because
that is,
I don't want to raise my kids, pushing them into the military or anything like that. But, like, just having, like, that that self-confidence with yourself and that like toughness within yourself, I think is so important in today's society. And like I'm sure that them being able to know that they can conquer those things probably make all these other issues that people would think are big feel so small to them.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
incredible.
Yeah, we've had lots of conversations, and they're like, we've hiked 15 miles or however long it is, and like that's nothing to them now because they know that they can do that.
That's incredible.
So
awesome. So my husband is a big homebody. He loves being at home. He loves being in places that he's familiar with. And he just recently opened up to this idea of going to all these new places and doing all these new things and traveling and just seeing the world and stuff. Were you and your husband always on the same page with wanting to do this, or did it kind of take some communication and maybe some negotiation to kind of like figure out what you wanted to do with it?
I think it hit us both at the same time. We've always been campers. We've always been outdoors people. We have always said that once we retire, we're going to get a fifth wheel and travel the country and go out west and see everything. And we realized around COVID, I guess, it kind of made us just start thinking about a lot of things. Like, we're not promised tomorrow. Nobody's guaranteed to live until retirement or to be able to enjoy after they retire.
Right.
And the way that we love to hike, I want to go see these places now to where we can physically cover and do the things that we want to do.
Yes.
And I think it hit us both at the same time, like realizing that we needed to go now and we need to take our kids and show our kids all of these places.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I want to do with my kids and show my kids that I'm afraid we're going to run out of time and before they have to move off or go to college or whatever. So we're like trying to fit everything we can into our schedules now. And then our oldest is 16, so we've kind of started saying, okay, where do you want to go? What do you want to see?
Yeah. This is something that I'm obviously going to learn a few years from now, but like obviously our son, he has his opinions on things, but it's not like the opinions as far as like adult level opinions go, you know, like if he's in the car for a very long time, he's going to tell us that he's been in the car for a really long time, but like it's not like we talk to him about our decisions before we make them and things like that. So like now that your kids are old enough to kind of have that adult opinion, how do you balance that with your traveling plans? Is it something where you guys are all planning this trip together, or is it something where you and your husband do it and then kind of like run it by your kids, or your kids just like along for the ride, or how do you approach that?
Now, the last couple of years, we've started kind of letting them pick. We'll ask each of them, where do you want to go next? What do you want to see? And then we'll kind of narrow it down from there, like what works best for us, which direction, because you know, with 5 of us, sometimes we pick 5 different things. We usually try to let them have a say in it, and then some of the stops on our trips will decide, like, is this something that we need to spend a couple days here? Is everybody going to be wanting to do this, or is it one of those things that we're just, we can skip it, and because nobody's really interested in seeing what's going on there. We have surprised them with trips. Last year for Christmas, we decided to do, instead of doing presents, we did an experience, which was Disney World.
Awesome.
Which we've done Disney several times, but this was the first time we took our camper, and we stayed at Fort Wilderness, so that was amazing. They had no idea. I think they wondered why there wasn't as many gifts under the tree, because normally, I mean, that's another one of those American dream things, I think, is that when Christmas time comes, there's presents piled up everywhere, and you spend so much money buying everybody presents. And for things that the kids might play with for a week, and then they're tired of it. And so I just had decided I don't want to keep buying stuff like that. I don't want to keep doing that for Christmas. So we just had a few presents, but then they opened a gift that told them that we were going to Disney World.
That's awesome.
So that one they didn't know anything about.
That's incredible.
That was fun.
Yeah, we just went to Disney literally like a few weeks ago, and we had 12 adults and 16 children, and we all stayed in the same Airbnb, and it was a lot of fun. And they ranged from 16 to 1, so just seeing how the different ages adapted to different parts of the park and stuff, that was really cool. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing with social media and how you're trying to like build this community online.
Well, since we've started traveling, I love taking pictures, and I take way too many pictures. My family is always making comments like, we have to stop for Mom to take another picture. But so I'm that person. So I have all of these memories on my phone. And I always share them on my like personal Facebook page. So for years, people have said, you need to start blogging. You need to start sharing that. And so I kind of started looking into blogging, but
Uh-huh.
I just haven't really got into that yet. But
Uh-huh.
then I decided to set up a Facebook page
Uh-huh.
just to share our camping memories and the
Uh-huh.
trips that we've been on and the pictures, so that I'm not constantly overwhelming the people who don't really necessarily care to see all of my travel pictures. Because
Right.
I mean, I know not everybody has that same interest.
Uh-huh.
I've found there's a whole community of people
Mhm.
who can sit and talk about the exact same thing and who love hearing other people's stories
Uh-huh.
and their travel adventures and seeing those pictures
Uh-huh.
and getting their own list of places that they want to go or their
Uh-huh.
tips on places. And those people have been so supportive and friendly. And it's just been really neat.
That's incredible, and it's so funny because that's how we met.
Yeah.
And the part of the Midwest that we're in, there's all these small towns where like people grew up, they lived here, and then they never leave. Like they are only here,
Yes.
right? And so like when you said that you were from where you're from, and I found out that we were close together, I'm like, I didn't even know there was other families that did that near
I
here.
know.
So like, it's incredible that you can draw these people from all over the country, but you
Yes.
might have someone in your own backyard
That's
that you didn't
right.
even know about too.
That's right.
And that's so funny.
Yeah, it really is neat how there's so many people that can come together and
Mhm.
just share the same interests.
Absolutely.
So.
What kind of hurdles and what kind of positives have you seen like on this social media journey so far?
It takes a lot of time.
Yes, it does.
Even though I love it and
Uh-huh.
I love putting together our memories, I like to always have a trip planned.
Yes, same.
And even when I'm at home,
Uh-huh.
I am planning other trips
Mhm.
and we're looking forward to other trips that we have planned. And so kind of in that downtime, because I'm one like you that would be on the road
Mhm.
every chance I got,
Mhm.
because there's always somewhere else I'm wanting to go and I want to go right then.
Yes.
And so I guess to kind of keep me content, I can go through all of my pictures and memories and just reminisce, I guess, about
Absolutely.
everywhere that we've been and all the cool things that we've done. And so social media has really helped me out on that aspect.
And so reminiscing, it is such a unique concept in my head because I always found myself reminiscing, and I guess I never really knew why I was doing it. And it's one of those things where I feel like reminiscing and gratitude are very intertwined with each other.
Yes, I agree. I sometimes get caught up in like overwhelming feeling of all the places that I still want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And how am I ever going to see it? You know?
Yes.
And feel like, gosh, we've only been to such amount of states
Uh-huh.
or so many national parks, and there's still all of these parks we
Uh-huh.
want to go to, and I kind of get stuck in that sometimes. But then when
Uh-huh.
I look back and think, look at what you've done.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's amazing. And I mean,
Absolutely.
we haven't been to like near as much as what you have done. So to look at someone like you and think, gosh, look at everything that they've done. They've been to all the states and all of these different countries. And then, but to still look back and say, my kids
Mm-hmm.
have been to almost 30 states.
That's
or
amazing.
camped in almost 30
Uh-huh.
states, or everywhere that we've been able to take my kids. Like, to me, that's enough to be grateful for. We've met people from here in our area,
Uh-huh.
the Midwest, that are scared to
Mhm.
leave. And I mean, that's a true fear for some people
Mhm.
because they sit at home and they see the bad stuff on social media
Mhm.
or they see all of the bad stuff in the world on the news,
Uh-huh.
and they really are scared to leave, to go anywhere on a
Yeah.
trip. And so I also look at that as like showing our inspiration
Uh-huh.
and our memories and our adventures with other people and
Uh-huh.
say, get out there. I mean, the world is a great
Yes.
place. Once you get out and see, there's still a lot of great people in the world, and there's
Mhm.
so many neat places to see.
Well, I hope you know that you are also a huge inspiration to me. You've been doing this for a few years, and that as someone who's just now getting started, like, it's really reassuring to see people that have made this a long-term thing, and to do it with boys, our sons too, and like to see boys that are older also just really embrace this lifestyle is exciting. So thank you for letting me come here and doing all this with you. It's been an absolute pleasure sitting here talking to you. So for all the listeners that are on here right now, where can they follow you in your journey?
We are on Facebook,
Mhm.
Rolling with the Woods. And also, I've just started TikTok. I'm still learning. I don't know what I'm doing really, but it's been fun.
Awesome.
Sharing some videos
Yeah.
and putting some music with it. Nothing professional at all, but it's just been fun.
Awesome. Well, I'm Jen Evans with Raising Roamers, and we'll see you next time.